episode of Art Adventures dash things I bought off of AliExpress, because I think it will help me improve myself. Also because they're shiny and I want them. But I'm looking at buying individual tubes and setting up my own palette that way. These are Holbein paints. They are tiny. These are the tiniest little boys. Let's see if the light can hit it just right. But I'm really excited because instead of giving me like 1,500 warm colors that I don't want, there's all of these really beautiful kind of softer pastel blues in through here. And I am so excited about those because those are like my favorite color. I am a bigger fan of cool tones than I am of warm tones, so I will have fun with that. There's enough warm tones in here that I can probably come up with some kind of skin tone. In this video, I'm really just going to be swatching these to see how they interact and get the color on the page. I will eventually do a future video of me painting with them for the first time and actually putting together a small portrait using these. And I will probably do my best to use only these, especially since there's 24 colors in here. And I'll have to like figure out how to make skin tones with these. I'm gonna have to play with some color wheel nonsense when I get to that, because trying to figure out which colors are gonna mix the best is going to be a challenge for me, just because I'm not super well versed in that. But I've been playing with it more and I am excited. Alright, so these are so I have been painting and recording like all day, but I finally get to do the video I am excited about, which is swatching these teeny tiny baby sample size Holbein watercolor paints. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say going into this other than I'm aware that these are really rather non-traditional watercolors, like color-wise. I'm sure there's a few of these that have some white mixed into them. I know that Holbein is pretty guilty of using multiple pigment mixes, which isn't that big of a deal to me. But I haven't also nailed down what colors I have, because the palette that I bought, the shop didn't have like a list. So I was sitting around watching a whole bunch of different videos and looking up lists and trying to figure out, based on the color of this paint in the pan, what paints I actually have. So I might be referring to this later because I have guesses at what they are. I have no proof. I don't know because I haven't swatched them yet. So you can't really tell what color a watercolor is going to be until you put water in it. So I'll have this around so I can reference it. And I did want to let you guys know that I am using the Artist Loft watercolor pad just because it's the paper I'm most familiar with right now, because I've been using it a whole lot. It's also large enough that I think I can get all 24 colors in there and still do them justice. So I'm going to move some of this around so I can fit this dude in here. Stay. Okay, so I do tend to use my big flat brush for this just so I can get some in. The only problem is work at this purple a bit, see if I can work up more color. Yeah, I really am just disappointed with that purple. Like, does it show up that weak in here? Yeah, so that probably is cobalt violet light as opposed to something more vibrant like the permanent violet. Because even on here, that's like coming out super, super weak. I mean, it's gonna get some really pretty washes, but in the pan, at least, that looks like super duper vibrant and bright. I got really excited for it, and I probably should have known since the rest of these are pretty pastel, with the exception of like these three and like in through maybe these two. So this is the tiny baby set of Holbein colors that I got from AliExpress. I had less struggle getting into the pans than I thought I would, but it still was a bit of a challenge just because they are so small. So word to the wise, have some small brushes ready. But I did finally get the last two palettes that I ordered off of AliExpress. So I'll insert photos of what they or footage of what they looked like before, but I did finally clean them. So I've got this little white tin. I'm trying to remember. I think these are the Magello paints, and they look. Sorry about the weirdo lighting, but they look like this. And they're itty bitty boys, which I knew when I paid for them that they were going to be itty bitty boys. I haven't gotten to swatch them yet. I'm pretty excited to do that. I'm like 80% sure these are Magello paints just because I had to... A lot of the listings don't tell you what brand the paints are that they're selling you. They just say, ah, great watercolor, and then say watercolor in 4 languages, and that don't really help anybody. But this one kept referring to itself as macaron, like the little candy cookie things. And I saw like on a couple of other posts that the brand that was referring to their lighter pastel colors as macaron was Magello. So I'm assuming that's what these are. I did look at the seller's page, and in the reviews there were other people also asking what brand they were, and they never got answered. So that's as good as we're gonna get, unfortunately. Which is really too bad. I really do wish these sites would list what exact brand you're using and then give you a mother flippin' list of colors, because if I love these, I wouldn't mind going back to that same shop. Maybe not this one, but like I wouldn't mind going back to one of those shops to buy the tubes of the paints that I really like, but I wouldn't know which ones those are because I have no idea what colors these are. I've got nothing. But so here is the other paint set, which I think these are Paul Rubens. You can tell there's still some damage. The yellow spilled all over the place, and I had to go in and clean it. That's why it's still a little messy, but much better. I am pretty happy though, because they're a little soggy now because I had to run water over it, but I was able to clean these ones up a lot better than I thought I would be. This way, that way, this way, that way. Because these two were both completely contaminated by this yellow, which I don't know if you can quite see, but that just straight up exploded and there's like nothing left in there, which is a bummer because I opted to get the larger 1mm pans. They're not full-size pans or anything, but because this brand was doing it for cheaper. So I was like, you know what, I'll pay a little bit more and get the larger pans because I really like these colors and I'm excited to play with them. But then the yellow exploded and now I have like maybe a little less than half of that yellow. So I'm pretty bummed about that. I tried to reach out to the brand about it and I didn't hear anything back so far as I know. So that's a major bummer, but it does look like Mystery black color number 1. Oh, I think that's Payne's gray. Oh, cool. I like gray. Oh, this might just be Payne's gray and then black. Weird. Super weird that they would put all of these like bright, vibrant type pastels and then like this dark, earthy, mild green, this bright ass purple, Payne's gray, and then black? Question mark? Because if this one's actually Payne's gray, then I think this one will just be all black. I guess they wanted to add contrast or something to the selection of colors. Because yeah, that's just a warm black. Super confused by that. I am a little disappointed, purely because I was hoping those were all going to be purples and just be super vibrant, but I am not upset about this Payne's gray, or I don't know if that's actually what it is or what pigment combination, but I had a feeling, but that's still holy neon Batman. Oh my gosh. That is a lot. How does that even exist in a watercolor? Holy cheese. That is... like, I hope my camera picks that up even half as bright as that is in person. Holy shit. And of course they're gonna mow the lawn because I'm trying to record. Yesterday, it was mowing the lawn because I was in class. And now, like, we can't record things. That's not a thing. I'm not working or anything. That's fine. I am going to admit here, while he's not trying to mow the lawn right outside my window, these next two colors are probably not going to be a perfect accurate representation of what the pan is supposed to be, because all that yellow exploded into it, and I tried to get as much out as I possibly could, but as you can tell, there's still bits and pieces of yellow, so it's probably going to have a weird cast to it. I'm not happy about it. Because yeah, these are probably going to be two of my favorite colors in the entire set. I know this is absolutely gorgeous, but because of the yellow, it looks a little bit more like this one, which has me super bummed. Because that pastel minty life is, it's where I go. It's my favorite. This, I don't know if you guys can tell, but this yellow like is liquid. And I did spray this, but like this is still like that is behaving like acrylic. I wonder if it's supposed to be a gouache and it's just not listed, because this is way too soft to be a watercolor. Especially since I'm pretty sure they don't use honey in this formula. Oh, that's too bad. I actually like this yellow. But like, I won't ever get to use it. And you know, mostly I'm not a huge fan of yellows. I don't get excited about them. So like, I would have been heartbroken if it was one of these mint colors or one of the pretty blues. But like, I'm kind of bummed because as this got mixed into some of the others, like this particular yellow seems to be pretty translucent. And it's such a light color, and it would have been really nice to use for mixing, but I'll never know. All right. So this is kind of the comparison part of the video. I wasn't even sure if I was going to do this anytime soon, but I noticed something kind of hinky when I was doing these. So, these paints were listed very clearly as Holbeins. I believe them, I trust them, I think these are Holbeins. Though they didn't have a list of colors or pigments, when I looked at the website, when I watched other videos about people using these paints, these colors all looked like colors that Holbein has. So, I'm pretty comfortable, that's upside down, believing that these are what they said they were. The problem I have are these two. So, not only were the sellers of these paints not very specific about which colors these were and what set they were given, I think this is the one that claimed to be Paul Rubens. I thought it was the other way around because I had thought that I ordered the larger size of the Paul Rubens, but I got this larger set of smaller size, and I'm pretty sure this is the Paul Rubens, which means that my guess was these are the Magellos. But if you guys get where I'm going with this, I think these are the same paints. So I think these are both Paul Rubens, and just the shop didn't do a very good job of expressing that. This, I thought these were the Paul Rubens, but now I'm very certain that these are Paul Rubens, which means that these ones were not, they didn't have any brand listed at all. So the fact that there are no color names, no pigment colors, I don't even know what brand these are. I don't even know for sure. I'm guessing off of the pictures they had. I had guessed that one of these was going to be the Macaron paints by Magello, I guess, because someone else had those listed as a thing, so I just assumed it was the same. But if we look into these swatches, set these aside, there are a lot of dupes. Now, there are a lot of colors that are different, and that's largely just because this is a bigger set, and this has this neon fluorescent pink. But The first one I noticed is this kind of dusty rose color. This is the same color. This looks almost exactly identical. I used the same paper for both of these swatches. I did them in roughly the same technique. I just had more space on this one than I did on this one. They behave very similar in water. They dried almost exactly the same. And again, this color is about the same. That color is about the same. This pale skin tone-ish color that was really hard to get any pigment out of is almost exactly the same. Which one was it? These were out of order. So these two purples look the same. These two purples look the same. And then this kind of periwinkle color looks the same. These two here on the end. And then this is pretty close to that, but this has more pigment in it, I guess. This is a darker color, but they look very similar. And then this blue and that blue, this green and this green. And then these two greens here are almost identical, which is this really light, bright green down here on the bottom and over here on the side. I think these are the same paints because there are similarities between these two sets and similarities in the colors that were picked. So like, there is what I believe is a shell pink and another one here, but they're not the same. This one is almost peachier and this is a pink pink. And just like how we've got this kind of jaune light color, which is similar, but the tone is a little different. And this darker one is again similar. It's supposed to be the same color, but it doesn't look the same. But when you line these two up, they are the same. And I guess like part of the reason I'm so disappointed in this and I'm so salty about it is because the whole reason of buying these little tiny baby palettes was so I could test out different brands and find out which ones work best for me. It was so I could find out, guess different color ranges, figure out what colors I want, and then buy individual tubes without having to spend extra money. But effectively, I bought two of the same thing, just one has more colors. So I'm kind of upset about that. And the Holbeins I'm really happy with. It gives me enough of a range to play with while getting some samples, but I'm pretty salty that these two are practically the same set. I'm also really confused about this color specifically, because everything else in this set of colors that they had to hand pour this, and every color they picked was a beautiful kind of cool colored pastel color, and then you've got a little bit of warm up here, and then you get to this. He doesn't have the same color payoff. He doesn't have the same tones or the same vibrancy. He's really just a murky green. He didn't even have like anything magical and special about him. If I were painting wildlife, he might be interesting, but he didn't even do like a good job at the thing he's supposed to be good at. I really love this purple, even though it's extremely different from the rest of it, but it's got some cool properties about it. I'm guessing this is a Payne's Gray, and I love Payne's Gray, so I'm okay with that. He's pretty, but I don't know why they gave me a Payne's Gray and then like a warm black. Like this little tiny piece of this row, I don't understand why it's in here. It's like they wanted to do all the pretty colors, but it came out to a weird number, so they were just like, And I kind of felt like that with this, with the Holbeins, just because this like fluorescent opera color and then this dark red and this bright orange didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because everything else in the palette is kind of pastel-y. I'm kind of curious, so. Oh, that's interesting. So the opera color is a much darker, still really vibrant, but I don't know what they did, but this is neon. This is, I cannot express how shiny and bright that is. It's insane. I didn't think watercolors could do that, honestly. But, so I might be, I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of disappointed. I might be trying to find a way to pawn one of these off then. I guess on the up-hand side, I do have more of this yellow then. Because I have, this one is fine and this one is not so much. And that, I think that's also really confusing, because if these are the same paints, how come these ones are perfectly dry and behave properly like watercolors, and these still look wet? And like they looked kind of wet when I got them in the mail. These two down here look liquid. When I put my brush into this, it was liquid. I don't know what that's about, because none of these do that. Like, and it's normal for them to look kind of high gloss and kind of sticky. And it's normal for them to be a little moist since I painted with them a few hours ago. But like, these still look actively wet. Like, I'm worried this fluorescent color is going to come out of the pan. So I don't know what that's about. So I might have to find a way to get rid of one of these. And the sad thing is, like, I kind of want to keep the smaller set because it has larger pans and I can get more practice with that. But I'd have to cross-reference which colors are where, because this has more colors, but I don't know, because I'm like not at all interested in this weirdo dark green. I do kind of like these the Payne's gray and the dark purple. I love this whole row, but there's not a lot, you know. It's hard to tell. Well, I'm probably going to get my stuff out and try to do... No, I don't know. I'm pretty certain these are the same. So I guess in the long run, I'm really disappointed that the AliExpress shops did not list what the brand was, did not list what the pigments were, didn't tell me what colors they were giving me. Because a lot of those shops also had really inconsistent photos. So I'm not even 100% sure which one came from what shop, so I don't even know what to tell you about which shop to avoid, but I'm assuming they're run out of the same warehouse because they came in the same box, but they were beat to shit. So I don't know. I do like the slightly larger tins. Although honestly, this is good enough because you have a tiny, tiny mixing palette. You can't really get anything in here, but why would you need to? And these squares are just barely big enough for my brush to get in. I would recommend working with tinier brushes when you use these. But like, this cute, tiny little Altoid shaped set of paints would be really great for travel if you wanted to like go to parks. Since you really probably shouldn't be traveling right now, but if you are, I hope you're safe. But yeah, it's a bummer because I really love the idea of doing all of these itty bitty pans, and I really love the idea of having this tiny beautiful little treasure in my pocket that I can pull out and paint with. I love that idea, and I love these pastel colors, which is why I decided to start this whole journey with the pastel ones, get it out of my system, because the rest of them I'm going to be paying attention more to the brand and colors that are better for mixing. These are just kind of specialty fun colors. So